thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll have a few more people continuing to join us as we start our December webinar. Late November webinar, sorry, for TELedvisors. I'm guessing the next one will be Ascolite related, or maybe just a meetup, but we're joined with several people from the ePortforum, ePortfolios Australia ePortforum from 2019 that was held recently. Next we have Sharon Whippy and Esta from Monash College. Sharon's a senior learning designer for learning innovation. Esther's an assistant learning analytics developer for learning innovation. And they presented a couple of different presentations at ePortforum around professional pathways, students using Mahara, and some implementations of competency frameworks. So I'll let Sharon introduce what they're planning to present on now, but they've been doing some great work in at Monash College, so it'll be really interesting to hear how that's all happening.
Awesome.
Great, thanks Sharon.
Kate. Thank you. Just before I begin, because I'm not so familiar with this interface, should I be dragging or just double clicking my file to my PowerPoint to share?
Yeah, you should just be able to double click on it, I think.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to do that now.
In the main room files. Do you know what it's called otherwise?
Yeah, it's called it's just got I can see it sitting in like second in the row. It's just got ePortfolio slide final.
Yep. Okay, I'll just share it then if you like. Here we go.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
Something's happened there. What happened? That's a bit odd.
That's the previous one?
Yes. There we go.
Yeah, wonderful. Perfect. Thank you very, very, very much. You won't see our faces for this, unfortunately, but the slides are probably more important. Hello, everybody. My name is Sharon Whippy, and as Kate said, I'm the Senior Learning Content Designer for Learning Innovation at Monash College. And today, Esther and I are going to talk about how our professional pathways interns use Mahara during their internships in our team as a way to reflect on their internship and their learning journeys while they're with us. Oops, skipping ahead a little bit. So our MPP internships are part of a professional year program in several subjects such as IT, engineering, and also the skilled migration internship program in accounting. The Learning Innovation team take on a number of these graduates for 3 months at a time in either our learning design and development, learning analytics, or learning environments. So when our interns start with us, we train them on how to use Mahara solely for the purposes of writing reflections over the course of their internship. They are encouraged to share their reflections with whomever they wish in the team, but particularly the manager that they're reporting to and their mentor, which is another member of our team. In their first week, they write one. We encourage them to write one every day, and then once a week for their remaining time. So from a mentor perspective, interns' reflections really have allowed us insight into their journey while they're with us, how they're coping in our team so that we can provide support. And we hope that our interns use the practice of reflection to be able to critically engage with their internship as a way to integrate their study with practice in the Australian work context, and also to support the development of their professional identities. So now I'm going to hand you on to the lovely Esther.
Hello everyone.
I'm Esther, currently working in Monash College as an assistant learning analytics developer, and I was an intern within the learning innovation. I'm really happy to be here and share a story about how reflective writing helped me during my 12 weeks internship. So, begin with within the central e-learning team, now is learning innovation department. Each intern would have a mentor assigned to help you get used to the work environment. Also, you would have a manager who assists you in your professional areas, and you would have a supervisor. In my case, it was a director of the team. I don't know why the slides looks a little bit funny. Um, all the contact was gone. So we all know the value of feedback during internship. As an intern, there are two ways for me to seek feedbacks. One option is having regular face-to-face catch-up meetings. It usually happens every 1 to 2 weeks. Another option is through reflective reports and receiving feedbacks. In our team, we use Mahara to write our reflective report on a weekly basis. Mahara is a very easy-to-use platform to make a page or a collection and share it with other people. In my case, I create a collection to store all my reports and share it with my mentor, manager, and supervisor via a secret URL. So, how to write a reflective report? I did not do a good job for the very first time. My supervisor later shared with me a 3-step structure, which I think is worth sharing. First step is called description, in this section you write about what happened, and the second part is analysis, where you mention why it happened and how you feel about it. And specifically for interns, I always double think if there's any differences between what I was taught at school and what I have experienced during my internship, and whether it changed the way I think. The last part is called action. In this section, you write about what have you learned and what you would do differently next time. And for reflections, it doesn't necessarily have to be something you need to improve in the future. You can also reflect on a positive experience and keep up the good work. An example here, this is a screenshot of one of my reflective reports. As you can see here, in the description, I mentioned I want to achieve a specific function in one big step. After spending days and trying all the approaches, I became very upset because none of them worked. Eventually, I managed to do that by taking 2 simple steps. Here's my analysis. As highlighted, I said that I found myself easily get anxious and nervous after that many failures and trapped by my own thoughts. By thinking out of the box, I'm actually capable of solving the problems. And the last part is action. I had a really simple 3 bullet points as my takeaway. So, from my perspective, what's the benefit of reflective writings? First of all, it's a perfect log of my personal development. Secondly, I can get a weekly direct feedback from my supervisor. Last but not least, it can help enhance the group communication. When talking about feedback and team bonding, I have a very interesting example here. In our learning innovation department, we have a special lunch culture that for every day we sit together having lunch and chatting with each other. As a fresh intern, I was too shy to join them, and then I mentioned that in one of my earliest reflections, and um,
Immediately, I received feedback from my supervisor, mentor, and manager. They encouraged me to join them, and I did. I still remember I made some Chinese mooncake and shared with them. Till now, we're still having lunch together, and we just had one yesterday, and we all love it. So talking back to reflective writing, I have been working for almost a year now. I still write reflections from time to time. This helps me to learn from my past experiences. What surprised me the most is that sometimes when I go back to my older reflections, I would have a different analysis and probably a better action. I think that could be the beauty of reflective writing. It to me, it is a continuous way for me to improve myself.
Thank you, Esther. So, as I mentioned at the forum, actually piecing together this presentation was a reflective practice or reflective in practice as well. It was really great for us to be able to look back together in order to put together to be able to talk to you today or in the past at the forum. And it really just reaffirmed the value of reflection and reflective practice, not only in our internship programs, but to really support reflecting as part of our work process. And this is something really that our team, Learning Innovation, will continue to do. So that's really it from us. And if there's anybody with any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Sharon and Esther. We'll keep a couple of quick questions. Scott's got one saying, what happens to the portfolio when the student graduates?
That's a really good question, Scott. As normally with Mahara, when a student finishes studying with the college, because Mahara is integrated with our Moodle, they lose access to our Moodle, so they would lose access to Mahara. And what we are working through now is a way for them to be able to move their content to an external site so that they can keep accessing that material. But yeah, that's certainly one of the areas that I kind of find a little bit unsatisfactory about Mahara. I think mostly because it's integrated with our LMS, but it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit of fiddling for them to be able to move the content outside of our instance.
Thanks, Sharon. Hank's got a question. Is it useful to present your skills externally to employers as well?
I guess, well, it's interesting, right? Because Esther started with us as an intern, and now she's just a member of the team. And I've only ever reflected and used reflection in Mahara as part of this team as well. We haven't had the opportunity to actually do that. But it's certainly something that we would do. In fact, in our other areas in our team with our management, they all went for accreditation for CMALT. So in that respect, they were sharing what they were doing, what they did inside of our team with an external body. I would totally share my reflections. I don't know about you, Esther. Would you share your reflections with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Are there any other last quick questions? I see Colin's typing something in. While everybody's having a think, if you could just put some sort of applause in the chat and thank Esther and Sharon for their presentation. It's great to get the student perspective in particular, because we often don't get that, particularly in the roles that we're in, where sometimes that one step removed. So it's always terrific to actually hear from people using the tools and the things that we design, and also to hear from students on what's working and what's not, and to get that feedback. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.